Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to watch. This is David here with the 4 Hour Future Coalition, here with partners and policy advocates that are, we're all here together to join a panel talking about the recently passed in the House Build Back Better legislation. And so have a really great panel ahead talking about the impact of this and really what's the path ahead. So really look forward to and thanks to everyone joining. I'll go ahead and get a chance to learn more about the folks here with us today. We look forward to starting with Lori. Lori is, of course, here with Broward for Progress, and I think recently in from DC. How are you doing today? Thanks for joining.
Hi there. Yes, thank you so much for having me. I came back yesterday from being arrested in front of the White House on Wednesday. So happy to be here and talking about all the great news of Build Back Better today.
Awesome. We're really glad you're here and excited to hear from your perspective. Also here for the first time, Mary with the Environmental Defense Fund, doing important advocacy work with Build Back Better as well. Could you tell us a little more about yourself as well?
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Mary. I live here in Orlando. I am a climate organizer, and my job has been to get Build Back Better passed. Got the infrastructure done, got BBB passed. And so now we have to go thank Stephanie Murphy because she was the one we were targeting here in Orlando, trying to get her to vote. She was one of our 4 holdouts for a while, waiting for the budget to come back in. So we're super happy through EDF Action to get her to vote yes today.
Awesome. Yeah. Especially with For Our Future too. There's been a real team effort with advocacy. So always excited to work on the same goal. And so we're joined here with our other teammates from other regions here in the state. I'm, of course, in the greater Orlando area, but I'll turn it over to Bernice to introduce herself with FOF.
Hi, everyone. So excited to be on for this panel today. My name is Bernice. I am the Regional Director with For Our Future Florida in West Central Florida. So if you are in Tampa or St. Petersburg, you're one of my neighbors. And I am just really, really glad this panel has become like a celebration of BBB that passed this morning. I'm excited to share a little bit about what's in the actual bill. And how it's going to improve the lives of working families. And I will pass it to my colleague, Juan.
Make sure I'm not on mute like usual. How's everybody doing today? Good to see you guys. Thank you for having me. To the audience, my name is Juan Moore. I'm the Regional Director of For Our Future Florida. That's Broward County, Miami-Dade County, and also West Palm Beach or Palm Beach County. And so I'm absolutely ecstatic to be on this panel today to talk about, where we are with the BBB, because it was a total different conversation 2 days ago. And then this morning it passed through. So let's talk about it. I'm going to pass it back to David.
All right. Yeah. And really big piece of legislation, right? This is the Build Back Better agenda that is going to impact a lot of issues. We're of course looking at the importance of fighting climate change, but this also, of course, lowers drug prices. It also creates affordable elder and child care, and there's even more that really look forward to talking about. So I think the first question that I'm really interested in is that we obviously all were awaiting this week, looking at, okay, is the CBO score going to come in, and now how's the vote going to go? We now have just passed the House, so just kind of interested in hearing perspectives as to what's next for this legislation. It's not over yet, so what are we looking at for how this actually does cross the finish line?
David, I'll jump in here. It's Mary from EDF Action. I know that we're waiting on Joe Manchin over in the Senate. He's kind of our pen right now. We don't know which way he's going to go. So I know that one of the hangups he had this recently was that in the BBB bill was a tax credit. If you bought a car made in America that was electric and it was made by union people, you would get a huge tax break on that car. Well, apparently there's a Toyota plant in West Virginia and I don't think they're unionized. So that is something that Joe Manchin has an issue with. Like, hey, okay, I don't like this bill or this policy inside the bill about the tax break because it's got the union made in the United States in it.
So I'll interject from a perspective from Florida and advocacy here. I know a lot of people become discouraged with our two senators here in Florida. And I tell folks that, despite whether Rubio or Scott will move, our job as community members is to move them. And so we will be contacting our members and making sure that they're doing those phone calls, letter writing, tweeting, pushing them and reminding the senators that they have an obligation to the families and the working people of Florida. In addition to, obviously doing those call in to Arizona and West Virginia. But, the reality is, a lot of people will say, well, it's not going to make a difference. Well, my job as a mom is to stand up for my family, and we need Floridians right now pushing for all of this. The reality is this is not a Republican issue or a Democratic issue. This is an issue that helps working people and families, seniors, students. Every single person in the state will benefit from this getting pushed over the finish line. So they're not going to slide by without a hearing from us. We'll make sure that they hear from us.
Yeah, and I think that with this going to the Senate, we also know that this may not be the last House vote. So any changes that happen in the Senate would also then come back to the House for approval. Which, whatever the case is, we hope is a final approval and get to, but hopefully with maintaining the integrity of all the important things that we're about to really cover. So yeah, that's looking forward and just hoping that we'll see that this passes maybe even before the end of the year, but definitely looking forward to those perspectives. So I know right off the bat, one of the important things, and I think when it came to interacting with Stephanie Murphy and her office, this was thankfully one of the core driving factors for her vote to approve this, was recognizing the existential threat that is climate change and the impact it will have, especially in Florida, as many of us have to be aware of. And so just a few items. The Build Back Better Act is poised to cut greenhouse gas pollution by well over 1 gigaton by the year 2030. It'll reduce consumer energy costs, give our kids clean air and water, and then, of course, create hundreds of thousands of high quality jobs. And so I know you're working very actively in this space, Mary. What are some of the items in this that you're excited about or that people might not know about?
So one of the big things that we're really excited about is this cutting of the greenhouse gases. So we're talking about climate threats, but what does that mean here in my own backyard? So I happen to live in College Park, which is a neighborhood here in Orlando. And it's a very old traditional neighborhood. But the story is we flood, all our streets flood. It's as we get more extreme weather, more rains and hotter hurricanes. And we need to do something about how climate is going to impact us in our own backyard. So I think what will happen is we'll start to cut back on these greenhouse gases. And I think it will, communities like Goldsboro, which is in Sanford, Florida, there used to be an old slough where the water would go through. And now it's a traditional Black community or African-American community. And I think we'll start addressing some of these changes about neighborhoods that we know that flooding is occurring here in Central Florida. So I think the Build Back Better Act, by cutting back on the greenhouse and with the infrastructure bill that just passed, we're going to start to work on some of these issues to prevent some of the flooding that's happening here in Florida.
And I know when just at the Build Back Better press conference in Winter Park, we were joined with a city commissioner, I think, or a council person who was talking about that this and maybe many other localities like it are poised to, choose to be ambitious in their climate goals, and this will make it easier for those localities, knowing that there's really going to be a force supporting them and making those goals achievable.
You're right. So, David, the commission was Marty Sullivan, and Marty Sullivan came to another event we had called Climate and Ice Cream. It was called like Hot Days and Cool Ice Cream. Is what we had, and he spoke about how Winter Park, they're helping with some of the money that will be coming back down to the local communities. They can start implementing solar in all their buildings and do energy audits. That's great if you have solar, but how do you know how much energy that you're using for your buildings? By auditing, you can figure out how much energy. So maybe I have really bad windows, which is true. I have a 1950s condo here in Orlando. I know my windows are terrible. So what am I going to do to address climate? Okay. So same thing with the city. You go and you look at where your energy is being drawn out from. And so hopefully Winter Park will be able to use some of this money too to address some of the issues by doing energy audits in their own city.
Yeah, if I could jump in here, David, and add, I think one of the really exciting parts of this bill is also the lead piping. So this bill is actually going to allocate for money so 100% of lead pipes in the country are removed. And that's such a big difference to our children who are at risk for being, basically poisoned by this lead, and through no fault of their own, just because of where they're living and what the pipes are like. So it's a really exciting environmental aspect of the bill as well. Like our clean water is so important for families.
Absolutely. I love how Mary identified that environmental justice and awareness is paying attention to social justice and awareness as well. A lot of these lead pipe issues, these high water or high tide places are impoverished and communities of need. And so, yeah, I think it's a prominent portion of what is hopefully going to be solidified by the Senate.
Well, I know Bernice, switching the conversation a little bit, talked a little more about like the impact this has on families. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Bernice to lead us into talking more about that.
Absolutely. So one of the incredible things about Build Back Better is the investment in childcare and elder care. And so in elder care, the investment is going to be, it's almost like a racial justice investment, because the majority of folks that actually make up the elder care field are women of color. So it's going to lift up women of color in our communities. Thinking about childcare, the child tax credit expansion is going to continue to help working families. And it will also help more than 2 million women who left their jobs due to the pandemic get back to work. And so I'm curious to hear, like, from both Lori, Mary, and anyone else who wants to jump in on this question, what do you think these kind of investments mean for working families?
I'll jump in first. First of all, I feel like it's like a Christmas morning. I am so excited about the things that are coming through. Last week we saw the infrastructure bill passed. And, I reckon that people, we as a nation, we've forgotten or lost our way. The reality is the biggest asset we have in this country is our people, right? Bridges and roads and schools are really important, but our people are equally important, right? So today was that investment in people, families, and our seniors, our caregivers. There is so much, like, I think really we could go on and on about, there's just so many things in here, particularly in Florida. The first thing is, for anybody that is walking into a pharmacy today, know that your drug prices are going down. If you have to buy insulin, know that the thousands of dollars that you've spent is going down. Seniors that had to make a choice between meals and cutting medication, those costs are going down. So the first thing is that I'm just overjoyed is, it's probably not as much as I would like as a progressive, but I'm super happy that they've negotiated lower drug prices, right? And they ensure that for people that need insulin, it's $35 a month. which is reasonable. And the seniors don't have to pay more than $2,000 a year on their Medicare Part D. That's an incredible savings for folks that, quite frankly, they don't have the resources. Expanding the Affordable Care Act to make it more affordable for all of us, and particularly here in Florida, Medicaid expansion. This kind of goes around what our lawmakers in Tallahassee have been denying those families for so long. Finally, we're going to see a little bit of expansion. That's incredible. And it's going to help people that need hearing aids. I'm a little sad that, dental care wasn't in there, but I'm super happy that we're going to have folks that are going to be able to afford hearing aids. That's a big deal. So that, number one, healthcare cost. And you mentioned family care and child care. The fact that we are going to see 3 and 4-year-olds have universal preschool, that moms don't have to stay home, or dads or caregivers. They are able to send them, and there are going to be investments into universal preschool, is huge for development. The medical leave program, or the family leave. Now, it's not as much, again, as I would have liked as a progressive, but goodness, we're finally making progress when the rest of the world, up to a year in some nations, have family paid leave. It's a beginning, a month, I'll give you that, but at least it's something. So I'm happy to see that. And of course, what you mentioned, the child tax credit. This is really incredible investment in families. The reality is this nation for too long has invested in corporations that basically are greedy and do not reward their workers. And this is a chance for families to have a chance. And that's part of the infrastructure. We invest in, as I said, roads and bridges. Now's the time that we need to invest in the working families of America. So I'm super happy, in addition to all the wonderful climate things that are in there as well. And there's so much more. But anyhow, those are just a few of the top lines for me.
I was going to jump in here. I was trying to explain to my own mother today what the BBB was. So my mom is 85 and she watches the news. But I said to her, they're elderly. And I said, like, you and dad for hearing aids. That's a huge cost out of pocket. So my mom is delayed getting her hearing aids. When you try to talk to her, it's like super hard. So I was like, that's one of your things. I explained to her that medicine will be better off, that they won't have to pay as much for medicine. Then I also explained that my own sister, who's got twins, she had to leave the workforce. She's a teacher, to take care of her kids when they were little, because daycare was so expensive. It was cheaper for her to stay home. So when you try to explain to a family member what this means, it means it helps you with your parents and your sister with her kids. So it really does impact all of us on a day-to-day basis, is what happens.
Absolutely. Thanks. We can move to the next slide. Actually, Lori previewed something we're going to talk about next. So
Sorry.
Thank you, Lori. No, that's a good thing. I'm glad it came up. We want to talk a little bit about the paid family leave. So just curious about, this is huge. Paid family leave was not a guarantee in this country before. And other countries, like Lori mentioned, have like upwards of a year. Like places like Europe and stuff like that. So this is going to impact 18.5 million workers who don't already have paid leave through their job. And so just curious, because I know Lori talked about this a bit, to hear from folks. 4 weeks, it's a good start, but we know for some people, I mean, I don't have any kids, but I'm assuming like 4 weeks is like you're just starting to recover from having a child, or the trauma it causes on your body and all of this. So thinking about 4 weeks, would we have liked to see more, or do folks feel like, hey, at least it's something and it's a good start?
So I'm just going to say flat out, it's not enough. The reality is, for working families, it's definitely not enough. And it certainly doesn't put us on par with countries around the world. Mm-hmm. When we can take care of families not having to worry about newborns, or a spouse that's in the hospital for a few months, we're investing in those folks to come back and continue working. But it's really hard. I mean, you hear all the time people have to quit their jobs. It disrupts the workforce. because there's not adequate time. The other side says, well, you're just giving away free things. Well, it's not really about that. It's about investing. Whereas other countries around the world, they see the value. They understand the value of making sure that people don't have to worry about these things, that they are by default of being part of the workforce, that they are allowed to take a month or 2 or 3 months off to take care of family. Obviously, we don't want people abusing the system, but there are many people that have those needs, and there's no reason why we shouldn't allow that, particularly when we are so quick to give tax giveaways to corporations. The reality is we need an investment in expanding that. Now, 4 weeks, I'm happy that it got in there, but I would have definitely liked to have seen more. And one other thing I want to just mention is that, when we don't have to rehire people and retrain them, there's a cost savings there. So the reality is we also have to be thinking long-term with regards to family medical leave. There is a huge disruption for small businesses. And I know this as a small business. I made a point of making sure that I had health insurance. I provided health insurance, and we made sure that we did afford leave to our staff, because the reality is I know a healthy staff, particularly when they're not worried about their family members, they're productive. They know that I've got their back, and I knew that they had our back. So I just see it as a win-win. I don't think it should be a struggle, but definitely the fight isn't over. Hopefully folks will start to use it, just like they'll be grateful, be taking advantage of some of the other benefits that we see in this bill. And as time goes on, they'll realize, listen, this isn't out of the ordinary. This is something that is part of our benefits, and we should receive this.
Absolutely. And I think just to add, we can move to the next slide. These policies are super popular as well. 80% of voters in 2022 Senate battleground states support paid medical leave, and 76 support paid family leave. So it just goes to show the need for this kind of policy is extremely high in the community, for sure. Cool. So I am going to pass it to my colleague Juan, who is going to move us through the next section.
Awesome. So we're going to talk about improvements to healthcare. And so the Build Back Better Act is the biggest expansion of affordable healthcare coverage in a decade. It does reduce premiums for more than 9 million Americans. That's major. Also delivers healthcare coverage to up to 4 million uninsured people, meaning, undocumented people, people who haven't traditionally been able to receive those things, and it helps older Americans access affordable health care by expanding Medicare, which is totally major. I know, Lori, you had a couple of points a while back where we were talking about what it could do. And so now we're seeing it actually come to fruition here.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot, this is I'm giddy reading through everything and still digesting what is happening for Florida. But the reality is a lot of people are going to wake up when this passes and really start to see tangible benefits to their families. Whether it's the healthcare cost, whether it's, and we haven't even talked about the investment in education, the climate core, that's exciting. If you're a climate activist, that's also very exciting. The expansion of Medicaid, Medicare, investment into the child health insurance program, investment into maternal health programs. I mean, there's just so much in here that we just, honestly, we don't have enough time to cover it all. But the reality is families in Florida, working people in Florida, we all can benefit from this. And this is not something, again, this is not above and beyond. This is something that we should have had by all rights for many years. While it's not as much as I would have liked, I'm super excited that this administration, in the middle of a pandemic, in the crazy divisiveness of this nation, was able to get this done in less than 1 year, when many presidents couldn't even do it in 2 terms. And I repeat that. I want to make that point, because a lot of people, and myself included, it wasn't quick enough. But let's be clear, we were facing an economic crisis, a health crisis with the pandemic. divisiveness, with the big lie and the attack on our capital. And to get this type of both the infrastructure and Build Back Better done in under a year is really an achievement given the political climate that we're in. And particularly when you start looking through everything that we're getting, it's just, it's incredible. I'm super excited. It's going to bring real benefits to folks' lives.
Yep. And David and I think we did a panel about enrollment and healthcare enrollment a week ago or 2 weeks ago. You guys can check that out on this Facebook page here. So we can dive deeper into what that looks like now with this Build Back Better Act being passed in the House. So can we go to the next slide? So who pays for it? Big question. Good question. The answer is none of us. It is fully paid for by making sure that large profitable corporations pay their fair share of taxes. And so what that means is that nobody earning less than $400,000 per year will pay a penny more in taxes, which that is again a huge thing to hear with this president. I mean,
and also the minimum tax. Yay.
Right.
I think that's probably what's got corporations and wealthy folks most, or corporations most distressed, is that 15% minimum tax in there. That's a phenomenal thing, because there's, it's really shameful to think of these billionaires not paying 1 cent of tax and profiting off of the hard work of working folks and not having to pay tax. So a minimum tax plus, not as much as a progressive like me would want. It's something I'm super happy that it's in there.
It also kind of levels the playing field with these small businesses, right? These working families who are not as large as, nowhere near as large as these, 500, those Fortune 500 companies, and who absolutely need a level playing field. Again, a lot of these people, especially in Florida, are going to be people of color, people who have not traditionally been afforded these kind of gains and wins. So, cool deal.
And the other thing I would just say about that is, remember that the tax cuts that the Trump administration made, which I think it was over $5 trillion, I think, or total. I'm not clear on the math on that, but I know it was quite a bit. That didn't trickle down, right? We didn't see all this reinvestment coming back into America. We saw a lot of wealthy people continue to make more wealth. And so this is really also a game changer, as you said, for small businesses, working families. This is really puts it back. And we know that historically, when you invest like this, it continues to grow. It will only build our economy even stronger, as opposed to wealthy individuals just banking their wealth.
Absolutely. We can go to the next slide, Dave.
Quickly before we do too, wanted to contrast and glad that Lori had mentioned was the difference between this and the legislative achievement of the past administration of Trump that was giving away more money, and seeing that there's a lot of fear mongering in terms of its impact on the budget is a tenth of that. And just important to note that everything we've covered up until now, a tenth of what was done by the previous administration. And just think if we prioritized fully on that kind of spending that is so frequently just done without much of even a second thought. So that was something I really wanted to highlight, and glad that it was also already mentioned.
I think that's a strong argument, and we have to continue to hammer this over and over, particularly in Florida, because we're seeing already the far right crying out about inflation. The reality is a lot of the inflation is driven by greed, right? It's driven by the greed of these corporations. And so if you have an investment in people, an investment in small businesses, inflation would not be at the point it is, So just this is going to be, again, something that really helps the state of Florida and this nation. And it doesn't come on the backs of working people. This is an equalizing, if you will. And we're asking those larger wealthy corporations to pay their fair share. Somebody had to pay for the roads, the electrical grid, our hospitals, and all of that. It is not fair to working families across America to continue to shoulder that burden. It is not fair for working folks or people across America to have to shoulder the burden of healthcare costs associated with seniors who are unable to get affordable care. It's not fair. And so this is a way to kind of invest in the people of Florida, or people of this country, quite frankly. And we needed this investment. It's in my humble opinion, it should have been more, but I'm super happy that we're starting to recognize the value, because when we take care of our people, we can do amazing things.
Thank you, for sure. So how can you help and advocate? Republicans in Congress are threatening to rip away the relief from working families. One of the first slides talked about how Republicans did not sign off. We didn't have a single Republican sign off on the BBB. I want to remind everybody here in the state of Florida watching that we've never had senators. We didn't have any senators agree on any of the policies, not American Rescue Plan, not the BB, not the Build Back Better Act as well. We don't foresee them now. They're not in agreement with it. But these are ways, again, like Lori said, advocating for your voice. These are ways by telling Senator Rubio and Scott that Floridians want them to support and build back the Build Back Better Act, President Biden's Build Back Better Act, our Build Back Better Act. And you do that by phone banking with us. We'll have a couple of phone banks coming up this week. You can also send this email to them today. Working families need relief, and don't let them get away with neglecting us any longer. You can send that email, and you could also call on one of our phone banks. We'll dive deeper into that, or leave it in the chat the days you can join us. Are there any initiatives you guys are doing, Mary or Lori? Was a call to action that you'd like to deliver to the folks?
Ours will probably go out this week, and we'll probably have also call campaign, email campaign, phone banking to the senators, and of course, stalking them every way. One thing I would say to folks is, it doesn't take much. Every morning, myself and my folks, we try and log on to both Senator Rubio and Senator Scott's social media pages and make comments. A lot of times people go, oh, it's not worth it. But then, at the end, when election time comes around, the other side has a lot of money and they invest in a lot of misleading ads, and then people are confused. Well, my belief is if good people constantly call them out for their shenanigans, we can make a difference. So just log on every morning and push back. If you see something you don't agree with, and I'm sure Senator Rubio and Senator Scott will be decrying what has happened today over in the other chambers. So it's, as our responsibility as citizens to get on their social media and say, no, this is what the majority of Americans want. We don't want to be neglected anymore. We need to take care of seniors. We need to be able to hear. They need to be able to hear. And we need to invest in working moms and dads and grandparents and all of that. So that's something that I highly recommend, is push back on social media, not just because you're hoping that they're going to see that, but the millions of people that follow them as well see that there's voices out there that are united, pushing back against our senators. I think the biggest danger to Florida, aside from Rick Scott and Marco Rubio not doing anything on this issue, is the millions of people in Florida that could be affected by this not speaking out for it. This is the time to be loud. This is the time to speak up for our families and for our future. So definitely put everything you can on these two senators. And I know people are discouraged, and we've all been fighting hard, but this is the time. We've got to help push them. And stranger things have happened. Who knows?
I was going to touch on 2 points you just said. One, Stephanie Murphy's campaign told me how important social media is to them, that we should make phone calls because those are all tallied too. But social media sees more people will see social media. So I make one phone call, great, that number's tallied up. But by putting it on social media, more eyes see it. So more people read it and they're like, yeah, I really agree with what you're having to say. So I thought that was really important. And the second thing is Rubio, in terms of climate, he says that he believes in climate change, but he says he would not vote for the Build Back Better bill because he goes, it just helped the Chinese. We're like, no, this bill is helping Americans because we're going to build more things here in our own country, solar panels, for example. So not only for healthcare, but let them know for Rubio and Scott that for the environment, they need to vote yes too.
Yeah, I think if we don't say anything, we're empowering our two senators to keep spreading misinformation. We have to take that power back. The people of Florida have to take that power back and share with them why this is important to us.
I know. And that's
If we don't speak up, if we don't speak up, then we are definitely empowering them. And tell you what, I'm going to keep speaking up for my family, you know.
And the thing about all of us have our phones. So I'm on, you know, in the morning when you're watching TV, just pull out your phone, leave a message for Rubio, leave a message for Scott. It's just so easy nowadays. Just pull into their website, send out a Twitter, any social media will definitely get their attention.
I have an actual little paragraph that I copy and paste on there.
Really?
It's been a while since I've been on there, but usually I'll go in every morning and copy and paste it on there. And that is that you, to both of them, you are complicit in looking the other way at the big lie. You are complicit in what happened on the attack on our Capitol, and you do a disservice to the servicemen and women of this nation that are around the world protecting our democracy. I change it up sometimes, but I want people to remember that they are complicit in this. And there's many of them in the state of Florida. One other thing that I don't think people have talked about in this, and it's a little bit related to what we're talking about in Build Back Better, particularly here in Florida. For folks that don't know, there was a vote in the House, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, about an age discrimination bill, and not one Republican in Florida voted for it. In other words, they are completely okay in a state full of seniors with age discrimination going on. That is just shameful. That tells you the moral character that we have of these leaders, that they were not willing to say, you know what, age discrimination should be prevented. That is just shameful. Now, I don't think it's made it over to the Senate yet, but this is the kind of people that we need to constantly be pushing back against. This is why this is the time. I'm super excited to see that, as I said, this is monumental given the divisiveness, given the climate we're in, given the economic struggles that we've had, the pandemic. To see this happen in under a year in this kind of chaos, when there are many presidents that couldn't do this in 2 terms. This is incredible, but it goes to people power, and we have to be strong. We have to come together, progressives, moderates, whoever. As what happened today, we saw that. And I want to shout out the Progressive Caucus for holding the line. We got a lot in there. Wasn't the $3.5 trillion, but I'm still super happy. It's close to 2. We're going to keep fighting for the rest of that. But that's just really a testament to what it takes. It takes a multi-generational, multi-coalition, different folks working together to push for progress. We can do this. I know sometimes it seems like our nation has lost its way, and it has not lived up, obviously, always for the promise of folks. We know that. That's why I was there getting arrested again, because our democracy needs protections. But if we don't fight for this, if we don't speak out for this, and we're not willing to continually champion for the change that we're going to get, we will not see change. And now today we can sit back and say this was a hard fought change that happened in the House. Over 400 people, you had to come together in some sense to make change. Now we've just got to push it with the other folks, right? We've got a lot of work to do with 100 in the Senate, but we can do this. In Florida, you're just going to have to suck it up. We got to push our senators.
And vote.
And vote.
And vote, absolutely. And we are part of an effort that is giving notice today. Let's say we're looking at you, we're looking at the job you're doing or the lack thereof. And it's now or never. And we're fed up. So, for everybody who is not necessarily prone to calling, emailing is a great way. If you don't want to email, we will have some phone banking initiatives, and just staying active. Just knowing that we deserve what other states, with other people, with other countries have, And that's respect from your leaders or our leaders, right? Awesome. Is there another slide after that, David? Awesome. So there you go, for sure. Let's keep the conversation going. You can join us at For Our Future, or for Florida.us at the Facebook groups. We have East Central Florida, we have West Central organizing the victory, East Central organizing the victory, and South Florida organizing the victory. All of those spaces, you'll find initiatives that we are doing throughout the day, throughout the week, in efforts to advocate and amplify your voice on a day-to-day. I don't know if either one or you, Lori or Mary, have a Facebook or social media you want to plug?
Yeah, so our group is browardforprogress.org, and you can also find us on Twitter and Facebook. Just look for Broward for Progress. Thank you.
So we have Facebook. Go to EDF Action Florida, and you'll find all the latest and greatest going on.
Awesome. And yeah, please join us again. You could find out information on these social media groups, and find out about ways that you can join us and help us by volunteering, by joining efforts to keep Florida blue, or flip Florida blue, keep it blue, cause a blue wave, you name it. I just wanted to say it's the holidays. We wanted to have a place where we were going to talk about accountability. We still had that space, but we didn't know that we were going to celebrate. So I like to tell everybody that I'm around to, enjoy your successes, but you learn so much in your failures. And we've seen how our leaders have failed so much. We've learned a lot from that. And we know where it could take us. We have an opportunity now, more than ever, to take a hold of certain weaknesses of the other side and take advantage again and start focusing on people and us, like Lori said. I'll leave it there and I'll throw it back to Bernice. But thank you.
Awesome. Well, I just want to take a moment to thank our panelists for being on with us today. Thank you so much, Lori and Mary, for taking the time to be on here with us and just sharing your wisdom. And we appreciate you so much and would love to have you back in the future. And want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving next week as well. Hope everyone enjoys the holiday and is able to spend time with loved ones and get some rest as well. So we will see you all next time. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.